Binding is a strip of fabric which is prepared to encase a raw edge or a hem. And when you figure out where you're going to finish your hem, you trim away everything that you don't need, and then what I like to do is to prepare a part of the quilting which is close to the raw edge, so all these pieces of fabric are secured in it. You've got your lining, your batting, and your face fabric. You prepare your binding to 4 times the desired width of your finished binding. Now this works very well if you're using a denser fabric, but if this were chiffon, then we would prepare what you call a double piping. So you would prepare your strip, and then you would fold that into thirds. So you'd have 6 times the desired width. And it just sets up a more dense piping so that you don't see all the construction lines. Now in the Sewing Bee Challenge, we were working with right angles. So we had a right angle at the top of the closing front edge, and then we had another right angle at the bottom front edge for the hem. Now just a little trick I use sometimes is to prepare a guide and a little template which will stiffen the outer corner here. So I've got a piece of white fabric here, and I've pressed some fusible around it. Okay? And what I would do is I would sandwich that into the layers or secure it to the bottom layer, the lining layer. I would stitch around close to the edge, and then I would trim away what would otherwise be visible. Now all that does is it gives you a really sturdy corner and a nice reinforcement, a bit of a head start to get that nice clean finish. So you start applying your binding here. Pin loosely and pin at a very low angle. If you pin too awkwardly, then what happens is you can cause these bubbles, these dips in the line, and that is going to really annoy the eye when it looks at the finished edge and it wants to see something clean. So put your pins in really lightly and at a nice steep angle. Now when you come to the corner, try to just visualize that you're going to be working with a 45-degree angle to finish. When you turn the corner of this 90-degree angle, your binding is going to miter into a 45-degree angle. Okay, so if you just think ahead on that, then when you're preparing this and you've pinned to here near the corner and you take your binding around that corner, you can see that you're going to have to manipulate this binding into that 90-degree angle. Okay? And with a little bit of practice and a little bit of preparation, this will just fall into place. You'll get the hang of it. If you rush it, you won't have a square corner. But if you just take your time, everything's going to work out fine. You can give this a little bit of a press before you start. You can take a little bit of a fusible, tiny piece of fusible, and fuse it on the inside to secure it before you stitch. And then it's just a simple matter putting it in the machine. Choose a longer stitch. Let's see, I'll just do a section here which takes us up to the corner. So start to sew near the edge. I'm using a 3.5 length stitch on my industrial machine here. Just take it easy, guide your work in. You know what it's like working with bias trim. It can bubble, it can create little waves. But I'm not even going to pin this. I'm going to show you how easy it is. You can feel when the trim butts up against that edge. So just keep sewing along and use your hands to guide all the fabric in place. Now we're coming up to the corner, so you need to just gauge where that's going to land. Turn your work around, and here we are, and then you can just guide that back into place. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to adjust that so it just hops over just a little bit, and then I'm going to continue on. So there's the hard part is done now. See how neat and tidy that looks. Might benefit from a little bit of a reinforcement underneath, but that's up to you. And there's your finished binding caught on the front face and underneath.